Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tim Lee. I'm a research analyst at Red Cloud Securities. I am delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on gold exploration today. We will hear from John Proust, Chairman and CEO of Japan Gold. During today's webinar, he will provide an overview and outlook. Then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During this Japan Gold webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements disclosure outlined on page 2 of Japan Gold's corporate presentation. And that can be found on the company's website, japangold.com. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Japan Gold. So we have Japan Gold presenting today. As the name suggests, the company is focused on gold exploration in Japan, where it used its first mover advantage to acquire a significant portfolio of projects. This covers a number of past producing mines and other known showings, and the company is now systematically exploring across this portfolio. With that, I now turn it over to John to update our audience on the company.
Well, thanks, Tim, and good afternoon or good day to all the attendees. I really appreciate you joining us today as we're in the summer, and it's a very busy time for everybody. And it's an exceptionally busy time for Japan Gold. Today's remarks, I'm just going to focus on our current activities as opposed to a general overview of the company. But suffice to say that I've returned recently to Canada from Japan. I was there for the month of May with the Barrick Alliance, with the Barrick technical team and under our Barrick Alliance, where we were reviewing all of our projects in the southern half of Japan. And I returned back to Canada just in time to attend the PDAC mining conference in Toronto with a number of important meetings and meeting with large shareholders there, as well as other interested parties. And then tomorrow, I'm actually leaving to return to Japan for the month of July with the Barrick team, where we're going to be reviewing all of our projects in northern Japan. We've also got active drilling operations underway in our independent project outside the Barrick Alliance in Hokkaido. So I'm going to take you through a few slides now. I welcome your comments. I heard from one of our shareholders a few days ago with a fantastic email that recounted his extensive mining background and experience. And I'm really pleased to hear from any of our shareholders that have an interest in Japan or have been there and have had experiences that they'd like to share. So I'd certainly welcome you to continue to do that. And thanks to that individual. So let's move into the presentation. I'm just going to take you through a couple of slides now. As Tim mentioned, there's our forward-looking statements for your review. I think everybody on the call is aware of our first mover advantage in Japan and of our large area of projects. Recently, we have expanded again further in the Hokkaido area, and I'm going to show you a slide on that in a moment. But we continue to expand in areas that we find are highly prospective, and Barrick has carefully worked with us to identify some of these areas. So we're just on about 2,400 square kilometers now of total mineral rights through the country. Again, we have our two relationships, the principal one with Barrick covering 29 of the 31 projects, and with Newmont technically supporting the other 2 projects outside the Alliance. And we'll just move on from this slide now. So I'm just going to slip past this one. That's 2021, and we're in 2022 now, so I think we can really focus on where we are. So as I mentioned, and you can see at the top of this slide, our portfolio has now been expanded to almost 2,400 square kilometers. Again, our principal focus is in the major gold provinces of Japan, and I'm going to try a highlighting tool that's available to us now. And I'm going to show you where the gold provinces are in Japan. I'm going to see if this will work. Well, yeah, it does work. Okay, perfect. So there's one gold province there. There's sort of a second gold province here. A third gold province is this area right here. A fourth one is in northern Kyushu or northern central Kyushu. And then the most prolific gold producing province in all of Japan is in southern Kyushu. And of course, in the middle of that collection of projects is the Hishikari gold mine, the incredible mine held by Sumitomo Metal Mining that has demonstrated the tier one potential of Japan, having produced over 8 million ounces of between 30 and 40 grams, and still having significant reserves remaining of approximately 5 million ounces. Those are the 5 particular areas. Now, I mentioned that in May, we looked at the southern half of Japan. And for your reference, Tokyo is just over in this area here. So more people than all of Canada live in this area. 38 million people approximately are in this area. But on the west side of Honshu Island, in the area that I've highlighted, that's a very remote area of Japan. And that's where we have our Togi project. And it's adjacent to Sado Island, the island that's to the northeast, where the second largest past producing gold mine in Japan was located. So our review of the projects in Japan in May consisted of the Togi project on the Noto Peninsula, and then the going down to Kyushu, the 2 provinces that I focused on down there in middle Kyushu and in southern Kyushu. So we've done that review. We're reviewing the final information with Barrick, and Barrick will be making a decision on which projects they're interested in advancing in that collection. Now, just to be really clear, the criteria for advancing a project in Japan for Barrick is they need to see that there's the potential for a tier 1 or a tier 2 ore body. And a tier 1 ore body is 5 million ounces or greater. And ideally, they'd be able to produce 500,000 ounces a year for 10 years or more. A tier 2 ore body is 3 million ounces or greater, and where they would see the potential to produce 300,000 ounces or more a year for 10 years. So that's their target size for and their goal in selecting any projects in our portfolio that might meet those needs. And so one of the things that I've always said is that, you know, if Barrick picks one project, that would be a good outcome for Japan Gold. If they pick, you know, 2, that would be a better outcome. And if they picked 3, that would be outstanding. So, you know, finding a tier 1 or tier 2 potential ore body is a challenging exercise. And we're fortunate to have, you know, the 2 largest gold producers in the world assisting us in doing that. So that's their criteria. And so in the 3 provinces that I've highlighted, those are the areas that are the focus of the May expedition. Now, just to clear that, I'm just looking for my clear button here, and I think it's hiding under my image there. Thank you. So I'm just taking the highlighter off. What we're doing in Japan in July is we will be focused solely on Hokkaido. So that's going to be our focus, and really our principal activities. There's some activities already happening in the area over in the west, but it's the gold producing province over in the east that's going to be the focus of our traverses across projects and field testing. So that's going to be a very exciting month, and we're really looking forward to that. Again, Barrick has already sent an advanced team into country, and I think we've got a total of 13 people in that northern region in Hokkaido now working the project areas. And then we'll have that size complement or greater when we start up in July with the full team. So that kind of gives you a sense of where we are, what we're doing. Again, in Hokkaido, just like in Kyushu or Honshu, Barrick is looking for the same, you know, tier 1 or tier 2 deposits or ore bodies. That's the potential that a project has to demonstrate. So again, we're hoping that our portfolio will yield some projects that have that potential. All right, and I'm just going to move on to the next slide now. So what's going to happen now is with the Barrick Alliance deadline looming in August, at the end of August, so just a few months away, that's why there's this real rush to complete the review of the projects so that they can make their selection before that deadline. And so I expect to have either one or two sets of decisions coming out before that time, one or shortly after that August 31st deadline if they take it right to the end. But perhaps it might come with a decision on the southern half of Japan sooner, and then after the end of August, a decision on the Hokkaido portion of our portfolio. The projects that they identify, those projects, again, for them to earn any interest, they have to complete a pre-feasibility study at their cost to get to a 51% ownership stake. And then they have to complete a bankable feasibility study to get them to a 75% stake. So Japan Gold is carried right through the completion of a bankable feasibility study. And at that point, we'd be responsible for our portion of the financing for the building of a mine. And we've taken great steps to do that in terms of assembling the right sets of shareholders that are interested in providing capital for mine builds in the future. And of course, we've discussed that with Barrick as well. So with the projects that Barrick doesn't advance going forward, what will happen next is that there are a number of other companies that are interested in looking at Japan. And we'll look at the portfolio that Barrick doesn't advance, and we'll determine, are there projects within that portfolio that we want to advance independently, or should we consider putting other joint ventures in place to advance those with other very qualified partners? So it'll be, again, a very exciting time in probably the fourth quarter of this year as we start to initiate those discussions. And again, there is a very strong set of interest from a number of companies. So to move on from here, I'm just going to actually, and I'll just sort of, this one slide, slide 7, if you're referring to our presentation, this just basically talks about Barrick, what they've done to date. So they had spent $5.6 million US up to the end of December 31st. The total budgeted amounts, including what they're spending this year on evaluation, will bring them close to $10 million US. And one comment I should make is that if Barrick selects a project, the question is really what's next. And what's next is that Barrick would very quickly want to move to drilling. There might be some more detailed geophysics, i.e. CSAMT surveys, but the key thing is we've identified significant anomalies, refine those, and then get the drill bits going and or the drill rigs going. We're very fortunate, as I think most people on this call know, that we do have 4 of our own Diamond Core drill rigs and approximately 26 people in our drilling division. So we've got a dedicated specialist group to advance drilling on our timetable or on our joint venture partners' timetable, and that can produce results quickly and effectively. So moving on from there, I want to talk about our independent projects. And as, again, I believe most people know, and I'm just going to slip back to a previous slide here, so just bear with me while there's a time delay. So we have one project, the Ora Takamine project, which is highlighted in blue in the southern island of Kyushu, and it's right in the center of that collection of Barrick Alliance projects, that big red blob that's right down here. You can see there's a blue dot right in the middle, and that's the Ora Takamine project right there. So that's a project that's surrounded by Barrick Alliance projects. And so we've done a lot of work there. We've advanced it to a certain stage now. We're ready to go forward, but we're waiting to see how Barrick is going to make their decisions in the area. So our focus has been, from an independent standpoint, using our dollars to focus up in Hokkaido, in the province there, and the light blue dot that you can see on the screen that I'm trying to highlight, and that's the Akutahara project. So that's what we're going to talk about now. How is it advancing, and what's next? So I'm just going to jump up a few slides here. And here we are. Okay. So the Akutahara project has several different prospects. And I'm just going to go to the following slide. So this is the Akutahara project. Many of you have seen this slide before, and it's a geology map. So the blue color is the basement rocks. Those are the older basement rocks. The buff color areas are the rhyolites, which sit on top of the basements and are often the host of the quartz veins that are our target. And then the yellow is the younger volcanic rocks that overlie or have a thin veneer over some areas as well. And so basically, we're going through the volcanics to look in the rhyolites, or the rhyolites in the basements, which are where the major mines are discovered, including the Hishikari mine, which is half in the basement and half in the volcanics or the rhyolites. All right, so on this map, what we can see here is that we have several red ovals that are highlighting our prospects that we're planning on drilling this year, or certainly advancing. So all of our effort to date in terms of our prospect drilling in 2021 and this year have been at the Ryuo Prospect. And so the Ryuo Prospect is a single historic mine that we've been actively drilling at since June of last year. We've just completed, and to kind of give you a frame of reference there, so at the Ryuo Prospect, we've drilled 7 initial holes. So we've drilled 7 holes that we've just, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Let's go to the history first. We've drilled 11 holes in 2021. So we drilled 11 holes there and came up with very strong results that are highlighted on this page in the red rectangle. So 20 meters at 6.3 grams, half a meter at an ultra high grade of over 1,395 grams, a meter at over 30 grams, and another almost 5 meters at 12 grams. So very good intersections as we've hit these veins. And so this year we wanted to go in and follow up on that process. So we've drilled another 7 holes that we've just completed in the last week. Drill core has been continuously shipped to the ALS lab in North Vancouver for assay. And as soon as those results are available, we'll be releasing those to the market. So we're very encouraged by the initial holes that we drilled and those results, and we're looking forward to the results from those 7 holes. And so I'm going to get into a little bit more detail there with you. So that's the Ryuo Prospect that we just saw on this map. And we're now going to go to the next slide. Actually, I'll jump 2 slides over. These are just the results that I've highlighted and some core samples that you can review at your leisure. But I want to focus on this map. So we've seen this map before, which is the map of the Ryuo Prospect. And the pink color area that runs from the southwest to the northeast, that's about 1 kilometer long, or just under 1 kilometer. And this is the historic area of mining that was where the area was mined right up to 1943. And there were 5 different underground sets of workings. There was one up here, there was a second one here, a third one there, a fourth one here, and a 5th one down in this area. So right along this trend, this alteration corridor, there was underground mining. And remember, our targets are low sulfidation epithermal gold targets, which are veins. These are quartz veins that carry gold and silver and alluvium. These are our targets in this area. And so what we did initially is we drilled under several of the old historic mines, because most of these mines are very shallow, or these workings are very shallow. And we want to identify the vein system beneath there and what happens to it. And so the example that I've used before and that's worth repeating is in this northern oval, the Jinja area. So we're going to go to a slide just to show that to you. And again, if I could just move my image there. Oh, thank you. Thanks. I've got a very good assistant. So here we are at the Ryuo Prospect. So the Ryuo Prospect is a large hill. And again, in 1943, they were actively mining on 6 different levels. The lowest level would have been the water table. So they couldn't go below that because they would be flooded and they wouldn't have the pumping capacity to take the water or expel the water from the mine. Of course, that's not an issue these days. What subsequent evaluation determined was that they, on this level 4, as an example, in the red highlighted area, they were mining a vein that was about half a meter wide at approximately 40 grams, just over 40 grams. And that red shaded area is about 72 meters of the tunnel or the adit. So we wanted to find out again, what happens to this vein as it goes deeper? Does it pinch? Does it swell? And what happens to the gold grade? So we drilled a hole 50 meters under the workings, and we pierced the vein there. And this is this hole right here. I'm just going to highlight that. So again, our intersection there was 5 meters at 12 grams. And what we determined there, that within that, you can see it included within that, was just over half a meter at almost 60 grams. So we determined that the vein was getting wider as it got deeper. Even the wall rock was actually carrying low levels of gold, and the grade was getting higher, 40 grams going to almost 60 grams. So then we drilled our second pierce point, our second hole, now another 40 meters beneath that. And this is where we came up with an outstanding intersection that you can see here. So 20 meters, so it blew out into a zone 20 meters wide that was averaging 6.3 grams. And you can see beneath that, included in that, again, just sort of using a comparison, 0.65 of a meter at 92 grams. So clearly getting wider as we're getting deeper, grade is getting higher. And so that bodes really, really well for this prospect. So just take off the highlighting here. And basically what we can do is now on back, we've just reviewed this area. So that's when we stepped out, 500 meters to drill under this set of workings. And our first shallow hole showed 2 meters at just over 6.3 grams. And then we drilled beneath that. And that's where we hit this ultra high grade intersection of half a meter at almost 1,400 grams. Now, it'd be easy to arm wave and get excited about that. But all that shows you is that the gold that's come up from deeper in the earth, that's being concentrated, has made it up this far, number one. And number two, that there's significant gold in this system to have that kind of grade concentrated in these veins. We then went another 250 meters further to the southwest, and we drilled there. And that's where we had an intersection where we intersected a vein that was a meter wide at 30 grams. So this is really looking strong. And our 7 additional drill holes now are trying to, improve on the grade and tonnage as we go through this area and give us more information. So we really look forward to reporting that information to you coming up. So that's a review of where we are with the Ryuo Prospect. And so if we could just remove the highlighting there. Thank you. And so I'm just going to skip ahead a few slides here. We've discussed our share structure previously. No change in that. So we have a very unique share structure for a company like ours, a junior company, where Newmont holds a 10% stake in our business. And that, again, gives them 2 things. It allows them to retain a right of first refusal on those 2 projects that are outside the Barrick Alliance. And for that, they provide us with very strong technical support in terms of those 2 projects. And I think we're all eagerly awaiting the results as we advance those projects. We have a very strong collection of institutional investors that have made placeholder investments or toehold investments so that they can be there when we're going to build mines and they can participate in that capital requirement. Again, management has 7% and then 28% is within the public float. So I think we've had a very successful year to date. We are now moving forward to really conclude those great sets of work. We're getting excellent guidance from a very strong board of directors that has expertise in all the areas of a mining company and are really providing that expertise to us. So that's been very helpful. We have a very strong executive team that has very strong Japanese representation and gets enormous respect from the regulators and the other stakeholders in the country. And then we have a very strong board of advisors with great technical depth in not only in Japan, but around the world, and also very strong financial and merger and acquisition types of expertise as well. The review is one that provides that real uniqueness and the benefit of why people either should continue to participate with us or should consider joining the Japan Gold Shareholder Group to come along on this journey with us. We are the first mover. We have 31 projects. We are in a geopolitically safe jurisdiction, underexplored, dramatically underexplored. The opportunity has been de-risked by the participation, by the review and the participation of the two largest gold mining companies in the world. And in this turbulent times that we're in, we're well funded. We're well funded. We have a very strong treasury that we've been carefully marshaling since we raised $17 million in July of 2021. And so we're well funded to complete our objectives this year. We have a very strong operational team, which stands us apart from anybody and certainly is attractive to other large companies wanting to come into Japan, with our own geologists, field assistants, our own support teams. We have our own permitting group. And as I mentioned earlier, we have our own drilling division. So we can handle operations in large scale in Japan. I don't know any other company that has been able to take on 31 projects and advance all 31 projects. And we've been able to do just that. So I think that's a real credit to an exceptional team that we have. So maybe with that, I'll pause and we can see if there's questions that pertain to our activities, and I'm happy to answer those.
Great. Thank you very much, John, for an informative presentation. We'll now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. A reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a couple of questions. When might you expect assay results from the recent drilling at Ryuo?
Yeah, great question. My gut feeling would be early September. That's, I think, where we would expect to see something happening in September. I say early, perhaps I'm a little bit optimistic, but I would say that's about the time frame that we're looking at. The one other thing, actually, Tim, that I should mention, and I'm just wondering if the presentation could be popped back up for me, if we could just share that for a moment. I just wanted, I didn't mention where we are going right now. And so I'm just going to jump back to a slide here that is really relevant for our audience. Just let me get back here. And there's a bit of a delay. We'll be there momentarily. So stand by. Here we are. Okay. I just wanted to talk about, so that's the assays that Tim was asking the question on, our course, are from the Ryuo Prospect in the northwest area. Now that we've stopped drilling at the Ryuo Prospect, so there's the Ryuo Prospect right there. We've now moved our drill rigs. We've moved two of our drill rigs down to the Seroma Valley. So to this area right here. And so in July, certainly before the end of July, if not sooner, we will be drilling under this 4-kilometer long valley that hosts 3 historic mines. So we're going to drill 4 drill holes, just like we did up at Ryuo, 4 drill holes under these old mines to determine what the geology looks like under those mines and the vein characteristics there. At the same time, we have one of our deep rigs drilling a hole right in this area right over here in East Kitano. Now, that's a very important hole for us because this Kitano gold prospect, that's an east-west oval that's, again, about 4 kilometers wide, is an area of significant historic mining. The activity of the historic mining was over in the west side, where there's a blue oval in the west. And that was the site of a gold rush in the early 1900s, right up to 1943, where 10,000 people moved to that area to take the tops off these hills where there was a quartz cap or a silica cap across these hills, and to get to a thick zone, a clay zone that had 6 grams per ton gold in it. So they were scaling from 500 tons a day up towards 2,000 tons a day prior to their closure in 1943 by the government. We initially drilled scout holes into those pits and found that there was good quartz veining, but the gold tenor was quite low. So with the support of Newmont, we did significant geophysical surveys right across that 4 kilometers area to the east, CSAMT and gravity, and we found that there were very significant structures over to the east, along what we would call the Graben margin, or the boundary between those yellow volcanics and the blue basement rocks. In addition to that, our surface sampling demonstrated that as we got further to the east, there was very high concentrations of antimony, which are a good indicator that we're getting closer to the feeder zone, the area where the material deeper in the earth has flowed up to the surface and brought the precious metals with it. So we're drilling our first hole where I've drawn that odd shape in East Gitano. That's our first hole. It's going to be a 700-meter hole right into the basement. We're going to see what we find there, and we'll be following that up with 2 or 3 more holes right in this area as well to really see if we can pinpoint the upflow or the feeder zone. So that's our plan for the rest of the year. So what I've just described, this will take us up to probably October, something like that, in terms of additional drilling. And then, of course, we'll be having results following the assay results from Rio, in September. And, October, November, December, we should be having more results from these other areas as well. So long answer to your question, Tim, but I thought that was worthwhile to discuss that.
Absolutely. Great. And obviously you had mentioned that, the Barrick review process here. Once Barrick makes their choice, how quickly would you expect them to start a drill program?
My best guidance would be before the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then kind of corporate-wide, how much cash do you have on hand, and what is your burn rate currently?
Sure. So we have in excess of $8 million in our treasury, which is it's very significant in terms of allowing us to carry us through this year and completing the tasks that we have outlined. Our burn rate is one that I really want to unpack a little bit for everybody, because there's always that view that we're doing so much. I mean, we're analyzing 31 projects, and we're drilling, and this is costing a large amount of money. Barrick solely funds the evaluation and advancement of all 29 projects. So all the work that we've done for the last coming up to 2.5 years, and on the 29 projects, in terms of evaluating and advancing those, Barrick has been funding, and that takes a large portion of our team to complete that work. And whether it's geologists or field assistants or even our drilling group, if they're not actually actively drilling, they're actively out in the field doing sampling programs or completing supporting the geophysics. So Barrick selects that. With regard to our activities, we're spending approximately $8 million in drilling that we've already started that. So we're spending about $8 million in drilling, and that's ongoing with our teams. And then there's also support programs that come along with that, additional geophysics, other soil sampling programs that help us expand the anomalies that we're finding to look at their greater size potential as well. So that's what we Japan Gold funds. And then we've got our general overhead costs to run our office in Tokyo, our base in northern Japan, our base in southern Japan, and then public company costs. And that runs about $350,000 a month.
Okay, great. And a question here, obviously Japan is a densely populated country. What is surface access like? Are there people living on or around the projects?
Yeah, no, great question. The good news is, and you can see the background behind me is a map of Japan. The long central island that's behind me is Honshu. That's the main island of Japan. And you can see sort of a bright spot beneath the Honshu label, which is Greater Tokyo. So 38 million people live in that area. A large portion of Honshu is densely populated. You know, Tokyo, you've got Osaka, Kyoto. You know, there's lots of major cities. So Honshu is not a highly prospective area, with the exception of the Togi project that we have on Honshu in the Noto Peninsula. And also the volcanic rocks are very thick over a lot of Honshu. So it's too thick for you to get through to get to the contact between the volcanics and the basement to actually make discoveries, or for it to be economic to build mines. Now, the two outlying islands, Hokkaido and Kyushu, are very, very different. So those islands are completely separate in that they are sparsely populated in large part. A lot of people have moved away from the large urban centers. So they've moved away from the towns and villages to the large urban centers, pardon me. And so it's very sparsely populated. There's a myriad of ghost towns in both Hokkaido and in Kyushu. And again, one of the reasons why they changed the mining law to allow the gold mining industry to be restarted here was to stimulate those rural economies in Hokkaido and in Kyushu, because they were really running out of economic drivers in those areas. So very low population bases in those areas. And that's part of the allure of being there. You've got wonderful infrastructure, great access, but very few people.
Great. And one listener said he had been in northern Japan to visit mines, and they did not drill very deep there. Are you? And you had mentioned you're drilling a deeper hole, but I guess can you tell us a little bit more about plans to drill deeper than
Sure.
drilling?
Well, typically, and I like to use an example. First of all, let's be clear on what our target is. Our target are low sulfidation epithermal gold deposits. That's what the Hishikari mine is, and that's what we're after in Japan. Now, the old mines, and we have a total of 47 historic mines under our 31 project areas. So we have 47 of the mines that were closed in 1943 and never reopened. Almost all of them are very, very shallow in terms of how deep those mines have gone. Now, if we were to draw, and I'm trying to see if I can do this, I'm going to try and use one of our tools here on the screen, and tell me if I can do this. Let's see. It says black. I'm going to see if I can get rid of, or actually, well, maybe I can't. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so if I drew, no, because I think my line isn't black. So can we change that color to, I'm going to change it to some light color. How about that? I think I might need technical assistance on this. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I can draw in white. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I want to show you is, if this is the surface, and we're looking for a low sulfidation epithermal gold deposit, typically what it looks like is this. And I'm just doing this as a simple analogy. We've got a tree, okay? And the tree is about 100 meters below the surface if this is a fully intact system. So that's about 100 meters. Okay, it's hard to write on this, but we'll do it. Okay, there's 100 meters below the surface, okay? And typically the tree is about 100 to now 400 meters. This is 400 meters down here. Okay, so basically what's happened with many of these mines is that they've mined down and they found very thin little veins up here as they've mined various levels. And then they've gotten to the little branches at the top of the tree. And those little branches at the top of the tree have been the kinds of veins that they've been mining. And then they've got to the water table. So then you've got, unfortunately, the water that's been there in lots of these cases. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is our drilling is saying, this looks very encouraging. And this material has come up from deeper in the earth. So if it made it up here, there's a good chance that there might be something beneath that. And so our drilling is really focused on this region that's right in here. We want to find that area, okay? And because we're getting to the thicker branches in the tree, and ideally we're going to find the feeder zone where there might be real concentrations of the gold. So that's what we're after. And so the Ryuo mine is a classic example of this, where again, if this was the Ryuo example, that's where they'd mined up above at the top in those, just at the very top branches of the trees in the first 100 meters or so. And we've now found that our drilling that's just gone just below this has yielded very strong results so far. So we continue to focus our drilling efforts deeper beneath these old mines with a view that this is the model that we're after, the low sulfidation epithermal model, and this is why we feel we're going to be successful in terms of evaluating these past mines and the potential that's beneath them.
Great. And I think one kind of question about long-term strategy here, but if you do have exploration success, what would be the long-term plan? Would you like to evolve into a miner, or would you look to sell to a producer?
So I think the key thing here is the great thing about Japan Gold is we have options. And the important thing is to keep all your options open and then do whatever is in the best interest of your shareholders. And so the good news is that if we're fortunate to find a tier 1 or a tier 2 deposit, we have two great relationships with Barrick and with Newmont. And I think we've got the opportunity to really advance those to a mine and be a participant in terms of an owner there. There will always be the opportunity to monetize those arrangements if they're successful, but those are things we've got to consider down the road. But either way, we have that kind of an opportunity. The second thing is that then we'll have a series of projects that I predict will be in other joint ventures, perhaps with other companies that have wanted to follow Barrick and Newmont into Japan. And we'll see how those ones advance and what our participation level is there as well. But that also gives us the option to sell a project, to participate as an active participant in a project, or to reduce to a royalty if we decide to move in that kind of arrangement. And then finally, there may be things that we say we'd like to advance those ourselves. This is something that we just feel so strongly about, and it's within our abilities, which are vast, I think, that we should be able to advance those ourselves. So we have that opportunity. I can most certainly tell you that whichever way we go, we're going to have a Japanese partner, because whether it's an offtake agreement and we're shipping our material to a smelter in order to really reduce costs and not have the production facility requirements of our own, or whether it's a joint venture with a Japanese, one of the major Japanese mining companies. We obviously have strong relationships with not only Sumitomo Metal Mining, but also Sumitomo Corporation. And we constantly keep in touch with all the other major trading houses and mining companies in Japan to update them on our activities. So we've got all those opportunities to do it ourselves or advance projects ourselves, to partner with others, to partner with the top two companies that are already embedded with us. Or there's always the potential that someone thinks that our company is worthy of coming and making a bid for. So I think it's going to be an exciting period ahead.
I guess one final review question here, but just to review, what news might we expect to have over the coming weeks and months from Japan Gold?
Absolutely. I think between now and the end of the year, there's going to be a number of important milestones met. First of all, after an extensive period of time and an enormous undertaking by Japan Gold and the Barrick Alliance, Barrick should make selections. And so we'll wait to see what those results are, but I'm hopeful that they'll select at least one or more of our projects that they see have that tier 1 or tier 2 ore body potential. And so that may come in one or two announcements. We'll see how they make their decisions. That's important. The second piece is, of course, our drilling results. We've got more results coming from the Ryuo Prospect that should build on our first 11 drill holes. We've got the results from the new 7 holes that we've completed. Then we've got results from 2 additional areas that we're moving into. One brand new area, the Seroma Valley. I'm really excited about that. What's that going to show? 4 historic mines. Rio, we only had 1. Here, there's 4. Let's see 3 historic mines. Let's see what happens with our 4 drill holes under those 3 historic mines in the Seroma Valley. And then the Catano prospect really is the culmination of a number of years of work of trying to find that trunk of the tree that I showed in the diagram. We're trying to find that feeder zone. So we're now drilling to try and find those kinds of concentrations of gold and the kinds of grades. And so I'm really looking forward to that as well. And so I think all in all, we've got a lot of news between now and Christmas, and hopefully we get some presents under the tree a little early.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank John Proust from Japan Gold for presenting, and thank you everyone on the line for tuning in. Just a reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back tomorrow afternoon, Thursday, June 30th, when our webinar series continues with Bendito Resources at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your day.